followers of Till, of the Murex, they bring a linguistic proof, a proof from languages. And they say that in Aramaic, the word chilazon is identical to the word for snail in Middle Eastern languages, such as Farsi and Arabic, and they call it halazun. Which means in Arabic, halazun means a snail. Also, the word for snail in Syriac, which is the modern Syrian language, Aramaic, is halzuna, which means also sounds like just an aleph at the end, like we know a lot of Aramaic words add an aleph at the end. And so it sounds like chilazon is a snail, which is what they say the chilazon at Techeles is. Happens to also be, and this of course means not much, but in modern Hebrew, the word chilazon, the translation is a snail, which happens to be today why it's a little bit more difficult, and it's more accepted by the moderne, because their munach rishon, their first assumption is, when they learn Hebrew, chilazon means a snail. So it's clear to them that it's the murex. I mean, why not? So you're going to try to get it out of their head that the word that they're used to as chilazon means something else, and the chazal means one thing, and the language means Hebrew means a different thing. Sometimes that's a barrier for them, and to get it out of their head, that's a little bit of a challenge. But aside from not pointing specifically to the murex trunculus, it's a general term for snails. And even snails, it could be that in the time of Chazal, chilazon, we'll see, could have meant a lot more, all molluks. It includes all different types of snails. And some say that it could even be, it wasn't only gastropods, which are like snails, but also cephalopods, which include octopuses and squids. Very hard to know exactly. I'll tell you one thing, that you're going to bring a raya from Lashonis. It's a very weak raya. It's hard to bring rayas from Lashonis. I don't know if any Paisik, any God, when it comes to any sugi and shas, I don't believe Rav Moshe would bring it and say because thousands of years ago, or because in other languages they refer to a snail as that's a raya, that's a snail. In any halacha shayla, I don't think it would be nageya. But anyways, even naniach, it sounds very good, it sounds very convincing. Chalzuna sounds right. Let me show you a Gemara, and we'll see from the Rishonim over there why this is not really a raya anyways. The Gemara says, at the end of Sanhedrin, Omer le'ahu mina l'Rav Ami. A certain man came to Rav Ami and he said, Amri, so you hold the shach michai, that people who are died, they have kiyas amesim. So the Gemara says, yeah, I'll show you. He told him over that he showed him such a concept even today. And he said, Alayla, he says, when you look up Shem Tem L'Zamaruba, Alayla Har, go up onto a mountain, Re'ei, Sha'ayim Ein Ba'yela Chilazin Echad. Today you'll see that there's one chilazin sitting on a mountain. L'machar Yerid Kshamim, tomorrow it rains. Nisma Le'kulu Chilzainis. You'll see that the whole mountaintop is full with different chilzainis. Showed him that there's such a concept of all of a sudden, from nothing, coming into a whole Kiyas HaMesim. Rashi over there says that this chilazon that the Gemara says, B'Reish HaHarim, is a toilas. It's a worm. Sheyotzim min hayam echad l'shivim shana. It comes out once every 70 years from the ocean. V'tzoyvim b'damoy Techeles. And he says that this Gemara that says that the chilazon, and then it's the smalikul chazon, it's the chilazon that you die Techeles with. At the beginning, at the beginning you see one chilazon, and at the end you find so many worms. Now, Kipshute, what it means is that it's Rashi knew. Again, we once mentioned this before. Rashi knew, and whenever Rashi says choymet, which is a snail, Rashi says the French translation for limtzo. Over here, Rashi doesn't say limtzo. Rashi translates it as a toilas, as a worm, which is like that when it rains, and all the water comes down and it floods into the little holes in the ground, and sort of suffocates the worms, and they come out of their holes. And after it rains, you see many times you see worms coming out. Kipshutei Rashi does not mean that it's a snail. Now, first of all, because if it would be a snail, or kaponim, the murex, how would it get up to the top of a mountain? These things can never go up on top of a mountain. And B, they don't live out of the water more than 8 hours. They can't live more than 8 hours. So to get on top of a mountain is not a mistabritic thing that it would be referring to the murex. So from Rashi, from the Lashon Rashi, clearly says Techeles, and when it rains, Tash is talking about worms, and from the fact that it's on the mountain, and the fact that it could live on top of the mountain for a certain amount of hours, it's clearly that it's not referring to the murex. Now, what's more of a raya is the Ramah. The Yad Ramah, Arishan, on that Gemara, brings down Rashi, and he says, Rashi says that Gemara, the chilazon that the Gemara is referring to, that you see, the concept of Techeles HaMeisim, is the chilazon of Techeles, that we dye our tzitzis with. Says the Ramah, it can't be, and he asks a number of kashas on Rashi. And at the end he says, you know what the pshat is? He says, Ela mistabre the high chilazon the hocha. He says it's not the same chilazon as Techeles, because you have to understand there's many, chilazon could take to mean many things. One of the things that it means is, like Rashi, it's a Techeles. But he says over here it's not like that. Over here it means a snail, says the Ramah. Over here it's a snail. In other words, he's learning in Rashi, he agrees to Rashi that there was a chilazon of Techeles, and that chilazon is not what the Gemara is speaking about. He's arguing what the Gemara is speaking about, but he agrees to Rashi to what the chilazon of Techeles was, and he says in this Gemara it's referring to the snail, which is not the chilazon, says the Ramah, it's not the chilazon of the Techeles. And he fears ice. Umikri, and the one that our Gemara is speaking about, which is not the Techeles, which is referring to a snail, says the Yad Ramah, Umikri Beloshin Aravi Halzum. He says this is what the Arabs call Halzum, which means a snail, which is not the chilazon of the Techeles. So it's clear from this Ramah that he's learning in Rashi that the chilazon of Techeles was a Techeles. That was one thing. That he argues on Rashi and says this is not what the Gemara is talking about. He has a few kashas on Rashi. He says that after it rains you can find many snails. And that snail, he says, is called in Arabic chalazum, which is exactly what they call today in Arabic, and all different dialects of Arabic, they call the snail chalazum. But that has nothing to do with the chilazon of Techeles according to the Yad Ramah. So, yes, do the Arabs call it, is it called in Hebrew? Yeah, it's called the chilazon, and the chilazon is a snail today in Arabic and many languages other than also, I think Arabic also they bring down that it's somewhere similar to chilazon maybe. But that has nothing to do with, like we once mentioned earlier when we spoke about it, the word chilazon is a very general term, and Ramah over here says clearly that there's many definitions and translations to the chilazon, and there's the chilazon of the Gemara that Rashi, the Gemara of Techeles, which Rashi says the Gemara in Sanhedrin is talking about, that's a Techeles, that's not a limsa, that's a worm of some sort that comes up from the water. Rashi says once every 70 years, which Mr. Shem, one day we will find out what that is very soon. But then yes, the Ramah says there is another one which is in Arabic called a chalazim, and that's something totally different. That's not what the Gemara, that's what the Gemara is talking about. That's a snail, but that is unrelated to the chilazon of Techeles.